What the fastest way you've seen someone ruin their life? Please consider subscribing if you enjoy the video. I had a friend in college who had a tendency to act before thinking, but was generally fun and well-meaning. After I had graduated, my friend apparently got coerced by a woman he was trying to sleep with to try heroin just once. As I heard it, he refused initially, then caved, because he felt pressured. My friend overdosed and died. Just like that, one bad decision ended his life. RIP Mike. I recently found a good friend of mine passed away in my spare bedroom when he came to visit from New Zealand. He had scored some drugs off the street and was doing needles. I was in such shock when he just pulled out the needle and proceeded to do drugs all day. Later in the evening I was sitting on my couch and he said he was cold, so I turned on the heater and closed the door as he was laying in bed. I woke up early the next morning to check on him and he was gone. This whole year has been one hell of a ride. My sister is coming to live with me this weekend. She's a recovering addict, but relapses every 6 months or so. This is my biggest fear. Honestly, you might wanna get one of those naloxone kits. I googled about one the night he passed away and it still eats me every day. I didn't know he would come in so heavy into the drugs, otherwise I would have had one at my places. After hearing your story I might go out and get one. I don't even know anyone who does any of that I know of, but I can't imagine going through it. I'm so sorry. A former acquaintance was playing around with a homemade crossbow that I'd helped him with. I was massively into archery and fletching, and he seemed serious about it. I typically made him leave it with me, because deadly weapon. I have an explanation. He kinda didn't. Anyway, to convince his parents to let him join an archery club he wanted to show off the crossbow we made. I thought it was a decent plan, so let him take it without any ammo. Turns out he was gaming me to get more playtime with his favorite toy, had gotten hold of some bolts, and was fricking around shooting his shed a fair bit. He somehow ended up firing a bolt that missed the shed completely, passed between the slats on his fence, and hit his neighbor's daughter in the spine. She hasn't walked since. He got fricked up real bad by her unstable older brother. They both did jail time. Acquaintance was disowned and ended up homeless. And now I'm not sure where they are in life. Holy it. I think the worst part of this is that you took all precautions to prevent any kind of accidents happening, but he somehow managed to create one anyways. My friend was drunk, so I took his keys and hid them in the house so he couldn't leave. I left and the next day found out he broke into his car and got the spare key out of the glove compartment after we left. He made it 15 miles and was basically in his driveway when he went off the road and hit a tree. Why would you ever leave your spare key in the glove compartment? Because you live out in the boonies and losing your keys and being stuck in an emergency is a bigger concern than car theft. Went to school with a kid who threw a rock off an overpass and killed a dude. Whole life down the drain at that point. Made international news. Imagine being the dude that got hit. Just living your life driving home from work one second, literally dead the next. This life is something else. My friend is a teacher. She teaches the kids whose dad was killed and said she just watched the poor kid deteriorate after the dad died. Super sad and really an effed up situation. Reminds me of a story I read called The First Stone. It's about some kids who toss a stone off an overpass and end up fricking up some innocent girl driving below. She's badly injured. As his punishment, the thrower is sentenced to community service, which he does at the hospital where this girl is recovering, and ultimately ends up being her buddy. Nothing actual. Seriously, so to speak. I won't spoil any more in case you'd like to read it. Does she end up finding his parents and turning them into chili and making him eat the chili? This is like every fatal car crash. Driving is fricked and we still have idiots that don't wear seatbelts or focus their attention on literally anything else while speeding down the road in a 2-ton death bucket. About 50 years ago, when my great uncle was in his early 20s, he drove home so drunk that he ran over and killed 2 college students and didn't even realize it. After his initial incarceration, he didn't know how to function as a free citizen, so he keeps getting himself sent back to jail. For example, he got out of jail around a year ago and couldn't make his first month's rent. His solution was to walk to the convenience store, steal a beer, and sit on the curb waiting for the cops to arrive. I'm just picturing him getting back into the cell and letting out a sigh of relief. Home sweet home. It's unfortunately a huge problem with prisons, especially when you send in kids for 40 years and let them out in their 50s. I believe the term is being institutionalized. Edited to add. Everyone is mentioning The Shawshank Redemption as a great example, so I'm gonna put that out there before my inbox dies. Yeah, I remember being in county jail with a guy. I was in for 24 hours, and this guy was a lifer. I always thought lifer was someone who got life, but he explained to me that a lifer is someone in and out for life. When the bus came to get him, he said, "Finally going home boys, see you in 8:10. And walked out with his prison jumpsuit on and got on the dock bus. It really is sad. The fact that he hit 2 people and didn't even realize is horrific. I had a friend years back, always kind of an odd guy, but he had a good heart. Anyway, one day, I was hanging out with him and a few other friends and he told us he was going to get a tattoo tomorrow and had this super cool idea, but he wouldn't tell us what it was, because he wanted it to be a surprise. We saw him about a week later. He had tattooed 3/4s of his face green. Like, no design or anything, just solid dark forest green. Basically, he just left the top right quarter of his face normal and the rest was all green. He had been immediately fired from his job the day after getting the tattoo. I kind of lost touch with him shortly after that, since he moved to another city. I'd heard he wound up living in his car. No idea why he did what he did. He'd had a very good job in IT at a pretty big company and was making decent money. No clue why he thought permanently turning 3/4 of his face green would be super awesome. This is absolutely mental illness. A friend of mine seemed totally cool most of the time. I knew she had bipolar disorder, but she was fine on her meds. She stopped taking her meds and called me one night on the side of the road right after she cut all her hair off. I picked her up, gave her a buzz cut to even it out a bit and called her therapist. She got back on her meds and has been fine for the last few years. If I hadn't known already about her mental illness, I would have been shocked by what she did. Yeah, that seems very likely. He wasn't a super close friend and he was a few years older than us. We were just out of university, so we were still at an age where that sort of mattered, you know. So we had never really talked about that sort of stuff. It certainly wouldn't surprise me, though. I have quite a few friends with fairly severe mental illness and I've seen them do some pretty disturbing things. What kind of tattoo artist goes for that kind of job anyway? That just sounds like bad PR waiting to happen. I was about to say, when I got my first tattoo, my artist explained to me in no uncertain terms that he would not tattoo my face, neck, knuckles, or hands. That wasn't what I was getting. Mind, it was just the spiel. I asked why and he explained that too many people get stupid at tattooed in highly visible places that couldn't be covered and end up regretting it, or getting fired. He also had rules about no hate imagery. I've gotten a few more since with various other artists, but they all had similar views. But I guess there's always someone who will do anything for money, no questions asked. Maybe he wanted to ruin his life. Sometimes depression makes people do weird things. Dropped out of a very good college with a full scholarship that his family could never have afforded otherwise, after 3 years due to World of Warcraft addiction. No, this wasn't me. I managed my addiction responsibly. I knew someone that happened to too. It was crazy. He was so smart and normal beforehand. The smart doesn't stop. If you looked at their gameplay, they would probably be approaching it with a problem-solving mindset, not an enjoyment one. Smart kids get bored. Bored kids look for engagement. Smart. Bored kids look for a difficult game with no and real life pressure to perform. Hence, WoW. Yep. Friend in high school initially got heavy into Dark Age of Camelot, then onto WoW. He's in his mid-30s, still lives with his parents and plays WoW all day. I've joked that I won't even try WoW for the same reason I won't try heroin. I know it would freak up my life. I had a few friends who would put more time into WoW or other games than work, school, and homework. One of my friends was very smart and hardworking, but had a sort of bad home life, and I guess games were an escape from that. He got held back in his last year of high school and ended up joining the military instead of being able to afford college. Now he has PTSD and pushed everyone who cared about him away. Not a ruined life in a minute story, but gaming can be a very serious addiction. I think what makes it insidious is the illusion of accomplishment and progression. When things aren't going well and you feel like a loser in your own life, you can play a video game and feel like a winner. Video games are designed to be challenging, but ultimately fair and doable. Real life isn't really like that, so that makes them more appealing. Now everyone will use one media or another or many as an escape. Books, movies, TV, etc. But only video games really make you feel like you are winning and doing better at life when you play them. You may get caught up with a fictional character and feel a sort of second-hand catharsis when they do something like finally beat a bad guy or whatever. But in a video game it really is you that's besting a challenge. Just not one with real-life consequences. Everyone needs this sense of accomplishment, but if you get it from video games you tend not to seek it out as much in real life. Think of it like a Skinner box experiment. One button always gives you a reward, the other button sometimes does. You're just gonna keep pushing the one that always works.